If you'd met me 20 years ago and asked me about the connection between baseball and religion, I would not have had much to say. I went to a few ball games as a kid with my father and brothers, the Oakland Athletics, and I liked them well enough, but I probably wouldn't have called myself a fan. I like the crowds, I like the food and the fireworks, but religious? I don't think so. Never crossed my mind. But then in seminary, I discovered something very puzzling. Unitarian Universalist ministers love baseball. The Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association even had a secret, semi secret baseball association with a newsletter and a minister that acted as the commissioner. To this day, regardless of where General Assembly is being held, the members of the UU Ministers Baseball Association sneak out together to take in a ball game, and so do I. All this changed in 2010, the year that Rick and I got cable, including what changed in 2010 was that I got interested in baseball. And how that happened was that we got cable and including the San Francisco Giants channel. And one evening I decided to watch with my husband, and within a few innings I was pretty intrigued because the 2010 team was much more entertaining than I remember the A's being. In addition to amazing ball players, they were a bunch of complete goofballs. Take star pitcher Tim Lincecum, for example. He was a two-time Cy Young Award winner by the age of 25, but he looked exactly like your average high school stoner. His nickname was the Freak because of the way he pitched. He had long hair and his trusty skateboard in tow. He looked so young that the security guards at the stadiums thought he was a kid trying to sneak into the locker room. Then in contrast, there was catcher Buster Posey, this squeaky clean Georgia boy with the decidedly wholesome corn-fed look and a generous helping of all-American earnestness. He was a consistent, solid catcher, but also he set a National League record between July 1st and July 10th of 2010 for batting, 514, with 19 hits, 6 home runs, and 13 RBIs in 10 days. Despite his status as a superstar, Buster charmed fans of all ages with his gee whiz, aw shucks, take one for the team attitude. In stark contrast, you had closing pitcher Brian the Beard Wilson, who was a self-proclaimed certified ninja, who occasionally showed up in public wearing a skin-tight orange and black spandex tuxedo. During the Giants playoff in 2010, he began growing this big, bushy black beard, and he announced that he would not shave it off until the season was over, and then only if the Giants won the World Series. So fans began growing their own big, bushy beards or wearing fake beards and chanting, "Fear the beard," when he stepped up to the plate. And who could forget first baseman Aubrey Huff, who had a particularly interesting good luck garment? It was a red, lacy, rhinestone-encrusted thong, which he began to wear around the clubhouse in the late summer of 2010. It became known as the rally thong, The company that made Huff's preferred brand of thong eventually sent 3 big boxes of those thongs to the clubhouse before a game in October. Huff caused a minor riot that afternoon, gleefully flinging the thongs throughout the clubhouse, raining them down on teammates and media members alike. The original rally thong was prominently featured at the World Series victory parade and ceremony, and there is still video online if you would like to see that. So I started watching in 2010 because of these quirky characters who seemed a lot more Monty Python than professional ball players. But lo and behold, this motley crew of oddballs actually won the World Series that year, as you heard, and again in 2012, at which point I accepted them into my heart as my baseball team. And that's how I became a fan. And that's also when I finally started noticing the connection between the game of baseball and our lives, our religion, and even Unitarian Universalism. The first thing I noticed was the way I started to feel around March of 2011, anticipating opening day. Baseball season begins in the spring, and when the whole world seems young and beautiful and blooming with hope. The season is with us all through the bright weeks of summer, stretching along like it might never end. But it does end, just as the dark and the cold overtake us. Many have written about how our lives are like this. We have a preseason, an opening day, a good long run through spring and summer, and finally into the fall. And then one day it's over. I found a surprising amount of poetry about baseball and about the way it's a metaphor for the seasons of our lives. Here's one by Mary Oliver called The Poet Goes to Fenway. In the language of baseball, I am 3-2, and not so nimble as I once was. And the game at the moment is decisive. There are many poets who love baseball, which, after all, is a metaphor for many things that happen when there isn't a game. The ball gleams forth and high, and maybe it's a hit, or maybe the runner is out. Nothing is certain except the way. The old players hang on to their smarts, their prowess, as long as they can, while the luminous young keep showing up, so swift, so quick, with such light in their eyes, and such beautiful swings. Mary Oliver. Here's another by Linda Pastan, simply called Baseball. When you tried to tell me baseball was a metaphor for life, the long, dusty travail around the bases, for instance, to try to get home again, the sacrifice for which you win approval, but not applause, the way the light closes down in the last days of the season, I didn't believe you. It's just a way of passing time, I said. And you said, that's it. Yes. The pace of baseball, I think, is similar to the pace of our lives. In soccer or football or hockey, there's this relentless, aggressive drive toward one end of the field or the other because each period is timed. In baseball, play is cyclical, and time is largely irrelevant. You just keep playing until 9 innings have been played, no matter how long that takes. Maybe you go extra innings, maybe not. In the immortal words of Mets manager Yogi Berra, it ain't over till it's over. And our lives are like that too. Baseball, like religion, has wisdom to offer. For example, baseball helps us to understand that there are things in life we can expect, but much more that we cannot. For example, when your team is at bat, you can count on getting your turn at the plate, just like everyone else. But on the other hand, if you're playing in the field, you never know what's going to happen, how or when, or even if the ball will come your way. You always need to be ready to spring into action. Life is like that. A few opportunities are predictable, but much of the time, your chances to play come when they come. We have no control over when that may happen. All we can do is pay attention and do the best we can in the moment. And if things don't work out on a given play, if we drop the ball, if we fail spectacularly in front of millions of people, baseball reminds us that it's not the end of the whole game. I find it appealing that in the game of baseball, points are scored by making it home. In order to get home, you've got to step up to the plate and hit the ball. But most of the time, that's just the first step. You still have to get around the bases and back. Making it home is what matters most in our lives, I think. Home is the physical place where we settle down, where we belong with our loved ones. But I think that there's more to it than that. For me, being home means feeling as if my life has purpose and spending my days doing work that feels fulfilling and staying in touch with a sense of gratitude for the blessings I have. Home is a place of authenticity, of balance and meaning, a place I hope to return to again and again. As long as the game is on, there's still a chance I can make it home. Those are a few similarities between baseball and life. But what about religion? Why preach a sermon about baseball? Some of the themes that baseball and religion share are interdependence, redemption, and transcendence. First, let's talk about interdependence. Unitarian Universalism is a faith that promotes and honors our connection with each other's and with all life. We teach our children that we are part of an interconnected web. We also teach them that every person has inherent worth and dignity. The interplay of these two principles is perfectly illustrated in baseball. It's just another way of describing teamwork. We know that each individual on a baseball team has his or her particular strength, but they can only score points if they all work together. Some are powerful hitters, some are ace pitchers, some run better than others, and some can make impossible diving catches, like Brandon Crawford. But the most brilliant pitchers can't win for his team unless someone brings in some home runs. And not even a slugger like Buster Posey can guarantee a win without fielders who will keep the other side from scoring. New York's former governor and serious baseball fan Mario Cuomo put it this way: baseball is a community activity. You need all 9 people helping one another. I love the bunt plays. I love the idea of the sacrifice. Even the word is good. Giving yourself up for the good of the whole. That's Jeremiah. That's thousands of years of wisdom. You find your own good in the good of the whole. You find your own individual fulfillment in the success of the community. The Bible tried to do that and didn't teach you, but baseball did. So it is with our faith tradition. Unitarian Universalism does not revolve around individual superstars. No one, not the minister, not the board president, not even the most dedicated volunteer, can make a church succeed alone. In order to flourish, good church requires a team effort. All of our talents are needed to make this spiritual community strong and healthy. We do the best when we honor each other's gifts and offer each person their chance to shine. So if you're lurking out there, just being a spectator here, think about stepping up to the plate. Don't just be a fan, be a player. Next comes redemption. Many religious traditions offer adherents a way to be forgiven for sins or transgressions. While Unitarian Universalists are often uncomfortable with the concept of sin, I think we would agree that it is our nature as humans to make mistakes, to miss the mark at times. We all do it. But in my experience, we can be a bit arrogant about this. We like to hang on to this fantasy that we can avoid making any mistakes at all. We want to get an A or an A plus, maybe an A minus. And we think we should be able to score at least 95%. And we get upset when we don't. Right? Baseball helps you get over yourself. In baseball, if you get a base hit 3 out of 10 times in your career, which is just a 30% success rate, you might make it into the Hall of Fame. From baseball, we learn that when aiming to do something challenging, for example, parenting, or being in a committed relationship, or being a committee chair, or the board president, it's just expected that you won't succeed all the time, or even maybe most of the time. Baseball fosters humility and reminds us that you can be an excellent player without being perfect. As a former MLB commissioner, Fay Vincent, put it, baseball is a wonderful game precisely because it recognizes human fallibility. When other games include errors, what other game includes errors as one of the line items? We know people are going to make errors. No other sport acknowledges that. Apparently, no other sport has an actual statistic called errors. In baseball, errors, they're just expected. In life, errors are just simply a part of being human. What do you do when you make an error? What do you do in baseball? You just move on. You figure out a way to learn from your mistakes and you do better on the next pitch, the next at bat, next inning, next game, even the next year. Redemption is always possible in baseball. Hope is always available. The comeback could be right around the corner. Lastly, transcendence. Anyone who's watched the movie Field of Dreams knows that baseball forges powerful connections between people, particularly parents and children, who in some cases have very little else in common. A long ago game of catch or a special Sunday afternoon at a baseball game can be the most affirming memory that some people share with their father or mother. The man who wrote the book that was made into the classic film Field of Dreams, W.P. Kinsella, was ultimately writing about the reconciliation of a father and a son. The main character, Ray, finds himself building a baseball field on his property for reasons that he doesn't understand. Ultimately, the field becomes a place he can experience a reunion with the spirit, oh God, with the spirit of his dead father, who was a ball player. I've never seen so many grown people crying at this film that I went to. Still makes me cry. In this story and countless others, baseball stands for the possibility of transcending alienation and restoring lost relationships. There are other ways baseball creates transcendence. I feel it when I look forward to spending a long afternoon at the ballpark with my husband or my kids or some special friends. I know I'm going to relax. I'm going to eat a hot dog. He might drink a beer, and we'll just sit there for a few hours, taking in the sun and the sky and the spectacle. Baseball games have rituals, much like church services do. There's an opening song, seventh inning stretch, and an orderly rhythm of pause and play. You have plenty of time to chat, walk around, look at all the goofy costumes and the kids with their face painted up and their homemade signs. Time just seems to stop and you become part of the crowd. Win or lose, it doesn't really matter that much because the game connects you with so much more than the game. It connects you with humanity. It connects you with the past. And if you take a child there, it connects you to the future. The ballpark can be a holy place where we can be drawn out of ourselves and toward one another, toward hope and faith, toward the things that matter most. A call to the field is a call back to life. So step up to the plate. Keep your eye on the ball. Do your best. Swing with grace. Connect and run for home. And when you arrive there, may there be people waiting to welcome you with cheers, claps on the back, and high fives. Amen.